Congressman Carlos Curbelo is a congressman from Florida, also a Cuban American. Picture's worth 1,000 words, Congressman. When you saw that, what'd you think?
Leland, good afternoon from Miami. It's quite disappointing. Look, the United States, for the better part of the 56 years of the Cuban tragedy, that's how long the Castros have been in power there, believe it or not. The United States has always been on the side of the Cuban people and on the side of America's long-term national security interests. Now, for the first time in these 56 years, the American president is sitting with the dictators at the table, holding hands, shaking hands, and the only thing that's a priority for this administration right now is the personal legacy goals of Barack Obama, and that's a very selfish and reckless way of conducting foreign policy.
I've heard this brought up a lot. The President of the United States shakes the hands of a lot of leaders of a lot of countries that are equally, if not more, repressive than Cuba. Certainly you don't want to spend a lot of time grading just how bad people can be, but there's a lot of bad folks in the world that the President has certainly talked to at different times. What makes Cuba so special? Why is this personal?
The Cuban government for 56 years have done everything they can to oppose the United States and to hurt our national security interests. They have exported anti-Americanism all over the world. They have murdered American citizens. When they used to be cash rich, they had their military deployed all across the world fighting against the United States and its allies. And this government has not changed. Just about a year ago, they were caught shipping arms illegally to North Korea. Just a few weeks ago, there was a Russian spy ship parked in Havana Harbor. I mean, this is an enemy of the United States. They are octogenarian dictators. They have not changed.
There's been a lot of discussion in terms of taking Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. That would be a huge change for the administration. At the same time, you have the Iran deal going. So much talk in Congress about trying to block the Iran deal. Is there anything Congress can do to try to block any of President Obama's actions when it comes to Cuba?
Yeah, unfortunately, again, this is about the president's personal legacy. It's not about Cuba no longer being a state sponsor of terror. The Cuban government has a long and well-documented history of supporting groups like the terrorist FARC in Colombia that have kidnapped and murdered so many over the decades. So what we can do in Congress, if the president proceeds with this irresponsible a decision, is there is a review period and Congress can actually vote to block any removal of Cuba from that list.
You think you have the votes
we want to make a decision based on the facts. Well, we're going to have to see. We get back to Washington on Monday, and we're going to be having conversations about this. But we certainly need to do everything we can to make sure our country has a policy that is consistent with the long-term strategic national security interests of the United States, not this administration's policy of appeasing our enemies, whether it's in Iran, Cuba, Syria, appeasing our enemies at all costs.
We'll make you president for the next 60 seconds that I have. What would your policy towards Cuba be?
Our policy of Cuba would be, number one, to deny the Cuban dictatorship the resources that it seeks from the United States, meaning billions of dollars in profits. There's only one company in Cuba. It's the Cuban government. So the Obama administration's request that Congress lift all sanctions and essentially reward the Cuban dictatorship for holding Alan Gross, an American hostage for 5 years, we cannot proceed that way. We need to continue a policy, a sanctions policy that is strong, that's in solidarity with the Cuban people, the victims of all of this tragedy, and that advances America's national security interests.
Congressman, your 60 seconds as president is up. We appreciate you being here. Carlos Curbelo of the great state of Florida, thank you. On that note,
thank you very much.
In terms of the media, I want to leave you with this from Jeb Bush, who just tweeted out, Obama meets with Castro but refused to meet at Netanyahu. Why legitimize a cruel dictator of a repressive regime? And this is quickly becoming a topic in the 2016 presidential race. We know you'll be a part of it. Thank you very much, Congressman. Uma?
Thank you.
All right. Coming up.